Well, I went to see the new X-Files movie last night, Chris Carter's latest film, which once again stars David Duchovny as Fox Mulder and Dana Scully as Gillian Anderson. It was quite an excellent film. I thought the movie was going to be about UFOs, but it wasn't about UFOs. I won't want to give away too much of the plot of the film because this X-Files film didn't really have too much of a supernatural theme to it. There was a possibility that one of the characters in the movie was psychic. He may or may not have been psychic, or he may have had some other connection on the case. And even if the guy was psychic, there was always the question, were his visions coming from God or were they coming from the devil? Actually, the movie doesn't really resolve that question. Leaves the audience to figure out the answer to that one for itself. But the basic premise of the film is that a young FBI agent has disappeared, and since a psychic is involved in the case, helping the FBI out, Fox Mulder is called back to determine whether or not the psychic helping out on this case is genuine. I won't say any more than that because it's quite a well-written story, and it's sort of quite a lot of surprise and twists, so you really don't want to talk about the film too much because it will give the whole film away. Anyhow, I was going to use my review of that particular film, The X-Files, to deal with the quotation that Apollo 14 astronaut Edgar Mitchell made last week. Well, as I say, it turns out this particular movie does not involve UFOs, but I will talk about what Apollo 14 astronaut Edgar Mitchell said last week. Edgar Mitchell made a rather startling revelation that was reported in the mainstream media for the most part. Edgar Mitchell, of course, was one of the astronauts who flew the Apollo 14 flight to the moon, and he has been a respected astronaut and a respected figure over the years. Anyways, the statement he came out with is that for the past 60 years, the United States government has known of the existence of UFOs as extraterrestrial spacecraft, and also the existence of extraterrestrial aliens, and has covered it up for the past 60 years. What, of course, Dr. Mitchell was referring to was the Roswell incident of 1947, in which it has always been alleged by UFO buffs that a UFO crashed there, and that even bodies of the dead aliens were found. Skeptics, of course, have always debunked this, saying it was just a weather balloon or some other such thing, or maybe an experimental aircraft. But of course, Roswell has always been the one UFO incident that has refused to die. And in the past 10 years, before 1997, most of the books you'd read on Roswell phenomenon seemed to be assembled by nuts and weren't quite credible or believable. But in the past 10 years, credible stories have emerged about the Roswell incidents. Now, what has happened in the past 10 years is that people who were living in Roswell and knew of the crash have been dying, and on their deathbeds they have been telling their next of kin exactly what happened at Roswell. Prior to that time, they had taken an oath to the U.S. government not to say anything. Now, believing the U.S. government, you must remember this was 1947. The Second World War was over. The Cold War was just beginning, and people didn't really start questioning the actions of the U.S. government until the Vietnam War, when that generation thought that not everything that Uncle Sam tells us is kosher. But at that time they had people, good citizens of the United States, had no reason to disbelieve that the U.S. government wasn't acting in their best interest. So when the U.S. government asked them not to talk about the Roswell incident, they didn't. And of course they signed a statement saying they would not talk about. But of course 1997 was about 50 years since Roswell. Some of the people who knew of the crash, knew of the UFO crashing and the bodies being found, were saying, well, all the stuff we're getting about Roswell has been pure speculation, pure nuts, but something did happen at Roswell and we want the truth to come out. And Edgar Mitchell has collected anecdotes of those people on their deathbeds, and even has recounted conversations with U.S. admirals saying, we know something happened at Roswell and it wasn't a weather balloon, most likely a craft of extraterrestrial origin, but the U.S. Air Force has got control of that and they won't let us in the Navy or Army know what happened at Roswell. Well, these, with Edgar Mitchell calling for official disclosure, I think, and with Pope Benedict XVI saying that there is possibility life exists on other worlds, it's time for the U.S. government to lift the veil of secrecy over what happened in Roswell. The world is big enough, grown up enough, I think, to acknowledge the existence of ETs. ETs couldn't be any stranger than the characters that appear on today's reality TV shows. So it is time to wake up and tell the truth about Roswell.